What is the most outlandish, hilarious, surprising thing you have ever seen go down in public? Was having a new exhaust put onto my Suburban by a small specialty shop in Buffalo, NY. We dropped it off and then said we would just go walk around for a couple hours till it was done. Staff advised us not to as it was a rough area. We were 19 and from Canada. What's the worst that could happen? After walking through a couple blocks of burnt out hoses and straight out of the movies, for us, Ghetto W decided to turn around and get back to the shop ASAP. We walk around a corner only to see a group of 5 large, foodish looking young black men ahead of us. They notice us, turn and walk in our direction. Instant brick crapping. Do we run? Do we plead for our lives? We decide to do the Canadian thing and just keep walking like nothing's going to happen. The gang reaches us after a few seconds. Kind of does a half circle around the two of us. There is no escape, only robbery or death. What appears to be the leader makes contact. Yo, we got a question for you guys. We sheepishly reply yay. What's the plural form of penis? Penises? I think so. One of the other gang members blurts out, see I told you man, as they all kind of laugh and thank us. Tell us to have a good day. That is my only encounter with American street youth. This is the best thing I've heard all day. So I was loitering with a couple friends in a little village style outdoor mall that's pretty popular in my city. Without warning, a massive group of people turned the corner onto the street and started walking down it together at a brisk pace. Not a flash mob. No one's shirtless. Just a group of what had to be 300 or 400 people all walking together. And as they're walking, the ones on the fringes of the train are calling out to passers-by to join in. There's no indication of where the group is going or why, and no one is explaining themselves or holding signs or anything. We're near the end of the street, watching more and more people latch onto the group out of sheer curiosity as it moves en masse towards us. And I said, frick it, let's go. So we tacked onto the side of the train and followed it for 10 minutes or so into the heart of the mall, where by that point there were way too many people to come close to fitting in the park. I would estimate at least a goddamn 1,000 packed together. The guy who was leading the parade approached this young woman who was sitting on one of the benches there, who was looking pretty bewildered at being surrounded by hundreds of strangers. Another young guy who was with him, sort of a ringleader type, turned to face us as a group and started to shout sing lean on me, with no idea what was going on. The rest of the group joined in until there were enough people to fill an auditorium all singing lean on me together to this complete stranger of a girl in the park. We got about a minute in, to the end of the second chorus, before the guy's friends shushed us by raising both hands, and everyone went dead silent. Then the guy who was leading the parade got on one knee and proposed to the girl. She said yes. Everyone cheered and dispersed, more or less. It's one of my favorite memories, just because of the sense of being part of something greater, for no reason except that we were all human. With no idea where we were going or why, we still joined the parade of people and sang to this guy's wife-to-be, because it was a good thing to do. This is utterly excellent and gave me tingles. Good on you for joining the group, and for it not lynching anyone. I worked at check-in to cash for a little while. I was running a field call. That's where I go to the people's house to collect the money when they were late or skipped out. Anyways, I went to the projects. I turned a corner and the next thing I know, this skinny black chick falls out of the window with no cloths on. Shortly after that, a big black lady comes out with a toaster and throws it at the naked lady running away. A skinny white naked dude comes flying out of the house as well. The big black lady turns around and kicks the white dude in the nuts. Everyone went back inside. The lady I needed to see was directly above them. Laughing, she says, that happens all the time. I would pay to see that. Not literally, but I am sure somebody would. Saw a homeless man park his shopping cart between 2 parked cars on the side of the street. Then he walked out into the middle of the 4-lane street and took a crap. Got out of a movie in downtown Paris Sound. All of a sudden a snowball fight breaks out between the moviegoers and the bar across the street. Had to be a good 20 to 30 people tossing snowballs across the street. People were using parked cars for cover and sneak attacks. People who weren't involved would get hit and join in. My girlfriend at the time was hiding in a store front door when some old man threw a snowball right at her face. This went on for over a half hour. Even cars that were driving down the street were getting pelted from both sides. Haha, it was the greatest random occurrence I've ever experienced. As a Canadian, I can confirm this happens all the time. Was outside smoking at a huge university by myself at about 4 AM when I see a deer running down the middle of the road. The noise of it running against the pavement was super bizarre. Next, a pickup truck comes barreling after it. The deer runs onto the campus lawns and the truck jumps the curb and follows it through the yards. I run after. Got to see what this is about, and by the time I get to where the truck had eventually stopped, the deer was nowhere in sight. 4 guys were standing outside the truck yelling at each other. I sort of duck behind this bush area and run into a guy who was ducking there, doing the same thing as me. We kinda looked at each other, shrugged, and kept watching. These guys look university age, yelling about guns, fighting, shooting each other. The guy in the bushes with me starts to make moves to get closer to the action, and the 4 guys see him. They start to walk over. I'm terrified, and they see me. They are marching over, confident, like they are going to murder me, and one guy, huge black guy, comes right up to me and picks me up, in a hug, and sort of just sways left to right with me in his arms saying we were just kidding. We were just kidding. He set me back down and the 4 of them walk calmly back to their truck and drive away. I really have no explanation for any of it. The funniest part is that you ran into a dude in the bush. I was driving out in the boonies and I saw a man towing a late 80s Honda with another late 80s Honda. Now this wasn't such an odd thing to see in the area. If you couldn't afford the tow truck, you just got a buddy, some rope and another car. As long as you always braked carefully and slowly, the guy behind could also brake, and the bumpers would only touch a bit. There would be some scratches, but nothing you couldn't live with. This man was doing this task solo though, also not unheard of, but it just requires even more caution with braking. Brake slightly so the car behind you contacts the bumper, and then slowly apply the brakes even more. I'm not sure how long the man had been doing this for, but he was going about 45 miles per hour, so he must have been pretty confident in his abilities. However, when the deer leaped out into the road, his reflexes took over and he slammed on the brakes, leaving the second car to slam into his first car. He was fine and missed the deer, but both cars were totaled. I treated a guy who got stabbed not in front of, but on the front steps of a police station. WTF. Dude couldn't wait until the stabby was a little down the block. Hehe, stabby, hahahe. I got beat up in grade school for touching a kid's bike. I had never touched anybody's bike and didn't know the kid. It happened in a pretty public and crowded time of day at the school, meaning that it was at the end of the day when all the parents were picking up their kids after school. My mom watched it happen as she had pulled up just as it was happening. She got out and chased the kid off just as he was already finishing his bat crap crazy tirade about how he thought I was going to steal his bike. This wasn't the crazy part. The crazy part was after the kid ran off. He hopped on his bike and started riding away. Another mom, I didn't know who she was because her kid wasn't in my grade, saw the fight and subsequently chased down the kid when he ran off, in front of tons of other moms, and maybe a couple of dads, and plenty of kids in the school. She tackled the kid down, picked him up by the collar of his shirt, and carried him into the school to confront the principal. Most badass mom I have ever known, and I never even got to learn her name. So, if anyone knows of a woman who lived in Lawton, Oklahoma in the late 90s and had a kid who went to Roosevelt Elementary, I want to thank her for what she did. The rest of that school year was awesome, and I'm pretty sure she may have nipped her bullying lifestyle for someone in the bud. Thanks badass mom. First off, that is one of the most hilarious things I have ever read. Hopefully this story offers fair competition. While I was in college, a friend of mine threw a house party that ended up getting extremely packed. The house was fairly large, and the bulk of the party was dancing in the living room area, carpeted, which had the furniture cleared out to make room for the DJ. Drunken people dancing. The DJ was a childhood friend of mine that I used to break dance with, but was only spinning top 40 stuff to keep the energy high. Let me introduce the star of the story. Let's call him Paul. Paul is the guy you see at every bar dance club that dances horrendously, but for some reason or another, thinks his dancing is amazing. Paul also happens to be an overly machismo douche. If at any point in the night any girls started cheering for some other guys dancing, Paul would magically appear and try to have a dancey off, usually ending in the other guy stepping out of the room to escape the pelvic thrust taunts. A couple hours later, my DJ friend and I decide to spin some old school hip hop that we could break dance to. The crowd starts to get into it, and a circle forms. I step in to take a turn in the circle, and about 30 seconds in, I see Paul at the edge of the circle looking like a dog on a leash, waiting to break into the circle and show everyone who's boss. I finish my thing and get to the edge just in time to see that Paul had cleared himself a runway into the circle. And now, the magic. Paul takes a running start towards the circle, and does a front flip as he enters. He had had a bit much to drink, and underestimated how it would affect his ability to stick his landing. Rather than landing on his feet, he over-rotated before untucking. The combination of his forward momentum from the running start, and the centripetal force of his flip made him transition straight into the worm. Then his legs curled backwards up over his head, his body in the shape of a C, as he skid across the carpeted floor on his forehead. I spit out my drink and laughed like a little girl, as did pretty much everyone else in the room. I seriously have never laughed that hard in my life. I cried so hard it gave me a headache. Later on in the night I overheard him hitting on some random girl at the party. The girl notices the rug burn all over his forehead and face, and asks what was wrong with his face. The only words that get out of his mouth were "we were having a dance circle," and before the girl cracks up and says "you were the front flip guy." She couldn't stop laughing, and he walks away in shame. I later found out that he had to go to the hospital for a concussion. I say it was worth it. Every winter I go on a ski trip up north with my friend's family. One year on the drive up we drove into a whiteout blizzard while on the highway. Traffic went from 70 miles per hour to a near standstill in a few hundred feet. We were in the center of the 3 lanes, and behind and to the left of us a huge Suburban came hurtling down the road. The driver clearly not paying attention. He notices the traffic stopping at the last second, and in order to avoid slamming into the car ahead of him, the guy has to swerve right across our lane in front of us, through the far right lane and off the road. He drives off the road, down the ditch and up the embankment on the other side. Then it got better. He made it to the top of the embankment and then turned back down, drove back through the ditch, back up the shoulder and burst through a snowbank back onto the road. He cut back across all 3 lanes of traffic and into the spot he left from. When we passed by the car, his wife was bawling in the passenger seat while he was laughing hysterically. A bar fight between a group of deaf guys. Hands down, the funniest thing I have ever seen in my life. I think I saw a fat chick fight club one time. I live in a pretty small town and we have a local grocery store. I was driving home one night about 11 and passed by said grocery store and noticed a bunch of the local country hicks had their trucks in a semicircle with the headlights on, and in the headlights were these 2 very obese women just going at it, like clothing ripped and just beating each other. It was the strangest thing. At least one guy was jerking off, too. I think we can all agree on that. A man was walking down the sidewalk like a chicken, strutting and flapping his bent arms. I ducked behind a building to avoid interacting and waited a while until I figured he was on his way. When I peeked around the corner of the building to make sure he was gone, there he was posed on one leg with one of his wings behind his head and the other tucked under his armpit. I really went the other way then. It was a public enough setting that I wasn't in danger. I wonder now why he wasn't making clucking sounds. It's not his fault. It's those renegade hypnotists. I was walking into Rite Aid to buy batteries. As I walk in, a homeless man slinks in behind me. We both walk to the right and he turns in the snack aisle. The batteries were perpendicular to the snacks. All of a sudden I hear multiple footsteps behind me jogging to where this homeless man is. I turn around and see the homeless man, now shirtless, ripping bags of peanuts and throwing them in the air, and 2 store employees trying to subdue him. As they finally struggle to pin him down, he begins to yell, "I regret nothing," just repeatedly yelling it as he is dragged out of the store. That man knows how to live. A man was fighting with another man cause his burger had cucumber. You reminded me of that SpongeBob episode, No Pickles. Our neighbors back at my old house were deaf and mute. Not to mention, they weren't good people. They turned their property into a giant junkyard filled with pot and abused animals. But they did the funniest freaking thing one day. One day while they're gone, a man in a truck comes up with a hay bale. He walks into their driveway a bit, got a disgusted look on his face, and then set the hay bale in the driveway. A few hours later, our deaf neighbors come home, and they see the hay bale. They all look at each other really confused, and then all at once, they look down the road. Then, all at once, they all look up the road. Then, all at once, they all look straight up into the fricking sky. Please tell me they all slowly turned their heads up with wide eyes, expecting another hay bale to fall on them. The most hilarious thing that I can recall is related to monkeys and a dog too. I was in India at that time, and back in my school, students living in the hostel dorms used to have the breakfast from the canteen during the winters and eat outside on a sunny day on set fixed chairs and tables. Most of us used to throw the yellow part of the boiled eggs on the ground, leaving a competition between monkeys, stray dogs and crows to grab those. Usually dogs used to dominate in this fight, and of course monkeys were badly p at this. One day, me with 3 of my friends was having breakfast and saw a group of 6-7 monkeys surrounding a sleeping dog. One monkey pushes the dog, and as soon as dog takes his head up, all the monkeys slapped him one by one, taking 2-3 rounds. Before the dog could realize what happened, all monkeys were gone, and the expression on the dog was like, what the heck just happened? Whenever I think of that, still make me chuckle. I really want to see that. During a bar fight, I saw one guy jump off a table and try a spinning roundhouse kick, only to miss by 4 feet and then get hit in the face by a plastic trash can by his opponent. He was then escorted out by the bouncer while the entire bar laughed at him. When I was in 7th grade eating lunch at the cafeteria, some 8th grade guy was picking on this quiet kid. The quiet kid got fed up and in one fluid motion jumped on the top of a table, then jumped off it and roundhouse kicked this kid right in the face. It was glorious. My friend recently witnessed a guy walk into a McDonald's, slam his cheeseburger on the counter, and proceed to scream at the cashier about finding a hair in it. After rambling for about 3 minutes, my friend confronts him. "Hey man, it's not her fault. I think you should go." The man yells, "This is between me and McDonald's. Man, I'm done with McDonald's. Done. You people are disgusting. You know what I think of McDonald's." He then unwraps his burger and starts punching it with both fists, rapid fire, ketchup and mustard splattering all over the counter. Then, he fixed his tire and calmly walked out. Man, I had to register to say that the OP was well told and awesome. I have a story that is strangely similar but not nearly as good. Might as well tell it anyways. My uncle's ranch. In rural Shasta County, lots of dogs and cats, but the alpha critter was our cat Mercedes, a calico manx with a regal bearing, stub-tailed with tufts of hair growing out of her ears. She was hard as a walnut and was a killing machine. She'd catch and eat large squirrels, chew 'em up head first with loud crunching noises. She was queen of the ranch and she knew it. She'd sit around squinting at everything and everyone like they were insects. One time my uncle brought home a new girlfriend and Mercedes promptly ran up to the poor lady and bit her toe so hard it spurted blood. So one fine day, we're up at the landing by the pole barn working on the skidder, and a friend of my uncle's who had never been to the ranch pulls up in a truck with a pitbull in the back, and the dog spies Mercedes sitting there in the middle of the landing. She's not moving and is just pulling her usual squint of disdain. The dog is revved up, starts spinning circles in the back of the truck. Mercedes just blinks a few times and sits rock still. New guy says, "Sorry about my dog. He likes to get after cats." My uncle laughs, says, "Sorry about your dog if he gets after that cat." Guy has a look of incredulity. It's plain he's thinking, "Balls." Uncle laughs again, says, "Turn him loose." Dog is spraying spittle out of his mouth, ready to eat that cat. Mercedes hasn't moved, still squinting like she had zero fricks to give. Guy says, "Okay," and then snaps his fingers and that dog burns rubber over the side of the truck and heads full speed for the cat. Mercedes didn't move until the last instant, and then she springs straight into the air and comes down on that dog's face like some kind of evil beast. She's just roasting this poor dog's face like a chainsaw. I've never heard such blood-curdling shrieks from a dog. The cat jumps off the dog and the dog went full speed under the barn, yelping to beat the band. It took the owner a half hour to talk the dog out from under the decking, and its poor face was shredded. Mercedes just went back to sitting there squinting at everyone. Manxes are all freaking batshit crazy. My cousin who lives with has one I've appropriately nicknamed Satan's kitten. I could have sworn I was on one of those hidden camera shows one time. I went to the social security office to legally change my name after I got married. The guy next to me on the elevator practically ran to grab a number before I got there. I go in and sit down and Mr. in a hurry sits next to me and tells me how he bought a suit at Joe's bank for a job interview in Vegas and someone stole them and his wallet with all his money and credit cards. He happened to see one of his suits on some guy on the street and decided that he should go beat the guy up. Obviously, the cops showed up and arrested him. Can you believe that? The guy with his suit and wallet got off scot-free and now he is in jail overnight and he has to sleep on the dirty floor. I nod, politely like yeah, that happens to all of us. I am rescued by the good-looking businessman sitting next to me. He is there with his sister, trying to make small talk. I ask him if he's there on his lunch break, as he appears to have just come from work. No, he says I haven't been able to work for a year. They say I have problems, but they're wrong. They made me go to a place for a while, but they're just trying to steal my ideas. I write sometimes, but I know someone wants to steal what I write, so I burn it all. You have to burn it all. The conversation continues like this for 10 minutes until schizophrenic businessman stands up, looks around suspiciously, mumbles something, and walks away. Suit man looks at me like, can you believe these people? So ladies, think twice before you go to legally change your name. I think seeing two guys dressed in diapers and bonnets strolling past me after a 12-hour shift was one of the weirdest things I've ever witnessed. I saw a full wedding taking place inside a Borders bookstore. They even invited customers who happened to be in the store to attend. AWW, I wonder if that's where the couple met. One time I showed everyone how the NuvaRing worked at a party. I hate those things. Once I lost one, never found it. So it's 1996, and I'm in Pamplona, Spain for the festival of San Fermin, the running of the bulls. I should also mention it was totally a freak chance that myself and two friends were in Europe at the time, and never intended to go to the running in the first place. But when we were in Paris, we heard it was happening right then, so we hopped on an overnight train and were there the next day. Hooray for not having set plans. To set the stage a little, people from all over Europe and the rest of the world go to Pamplona for this thing. There are literally a crap ton of people everywhere you go, often sleeping in doorways, parks, sidewalks and wherever they can find a spot. We were lucky enough to find space at an app where we could crash for cheap, so no sleeping in the park for us. During the festival, the actual run with the bulls is at something crazy like 8 o'clock in the morning, which seems ridiculous due to all the partying, crazy people. But the thing is, most are still up. They aren't waking up early. You sleep after the run. Also, parades. Lots of parades. As we did not speak fluent Spanish and did not know the awesome songs people sang in parades, we spent a decent amount of time watching them and walking in them. And we soon arrived at a startling conclusion. You only needed 3 basic things to start a parade. 1. Some sort of banner or flag. 2. Some type of musical instrument, like a drum, triangle, tambourine, whatever. 3. Drunk people. Lots and lots of drunk people. The good news was, drunk people were plentiful. I had a hand-carved drum I got from a guy in Nigeria, and on the second day, we found this big banner type thing leaning against a dumpster, in perfect condition. We set about trying to start our own parade, complete with me on a drum, my 2 friends holding each end of the banner, and we set out to rope in drunk people. I should remind you, we had no idea what the banner said. We may have been marching to cure childhood diabetes, or letting everyone know we were vegetarians and thought they should hug bulls instead of run them. No idea. We find a open square area that seems to have a high concentration of drunk folks. We unfurl the mystery banner, and I start playing my little drum as we walk through the crowd. In no less than 3 minutes, there are approximately 40-50 people crowded behind us who have erupted into some song that we did not understand. We kept on walking as they belted out their tune, picking up more and more people along the way, and by the time the song was done, We had at least 150 people in our mystery parade. Everyone cheered and hollered, handed us a bunch of free bottles of sangria, and then dispersed back to whence they came. To this day I have no idea what our parade was about, what the drunk people in the parade were singing about, or why some people gave us free sangria, but I do know that it was really, really awesome. In Boston, midday in the summer in a crowded area, a rather large woman was mounted on top of a slightly less large man who was lying down on the ground face up. His pants were around his ankles. They were belligerently yelling at each other to no end. I was there when a couple police arrived and basically had no idea how to approach the situation. It was funny as heck. Me and my brother were sitting on a bench waiting for the subway in Boston. Then, out of nowhere, the little old Asian lady sitting next to us ripped one of the loudest freaking blasts from the butt trumpet that I have ever heard. Saw a guy playing a piano right outside a subway. Full-sized grand piano. I'm okay with that. My jazz band was asked to play at a McDonald's once. So, I'm sure I've told this before, but anyway, Halloween weekend a few years ago and I'm on my way to the bar with a few friends when we hear a lot of shouting. A group of scullies, yobs, chaps, poor British thugs, are trying to start something with a guy dressed as Spider-Man outside a chippy. All we can make out is that they think he should grow up and they would like to physically make him agree, although less eloquently. They are after all, simpletons. So the guy dressed as Spider-Man drops his chips showing no sign of being upset by the ordeal and puts his fists up. As he does this, about 10 different guys dressed as comic book characters jump out of the chippy and strike outlandish poses, ready to fight, and the scullies freaking crap themselves. It's like one part of them doesn't know how to process what's going on, and the other part is screaming run. I mean, what would you do if you ended up in an accidental face-off against 11 superheroes? Laughs were had by all but the meanies. Late at night in a McDonald's in NYC, some man was angry because he did not get the right toppings on his burger. He threw a garbage can and started yelling at an employee who told him to back off before she went all Martin Luther King Jr. on his butt. He smeared the burger in her face. She said that kind of stuff happens all the time there. I have two stories. First one just happened. The second one, however, is hands down funnier and stranger. I'm here in NJ, on the shore, where we took the brunt of that B. Sandy's wrath. 4 or 5 days after we went to the Wawa, it's a convenience store, to buy some cigs. The line was literally coming out the door and looping around the building, because this was the only place that accepted credit cards at the time, since most computer systems were still down. I was waiting in the car and this girl starts screaming at another girl in the passenger seat of a car. I should note here that drug use is rampant, and anyone addicted to something would, at this point, be going through some type of sickness withdrawal. Both of these ladies clearly were going through it. The girl in the passenger screams, "B, what did you say?" Girl 2, "I said frick you B, if you want to something then D." The girl in the car had already opened the door, run out, and punched girl 2 in the face before she could finish the do something part. A drug sickness fight started and it took 5 grown men to pull them apart. Huge drug induced. Story 2. I used to work at a funeral home. The town had some bad parts in this. We had one chapel that was across the street from a crack house. The crack house got raided by full SWAT and about 30 other officers. Bullhorn saying come out of the house, all that jazz, just as we were carrying the deceased outside to put in the hearse. So the whole grieving family had to see that fricked up spectacle. SWAT raiding a crack house. See kids running all over the place being tackled by police. The really strange thing about this is that the funeral parlor was always in communication with the police station because we would have to block some intersections so the procession could stay together. The police knew there was a funeral going on and decided not to wait another 45 minutes to bust this crack house that everyone knew was a crack house for at least 3 years. They had probably just gotten the extreme force warrant from the judge and wanted to get in there ASAP before anyone had a chance to run for it. In all fairness, shutting down that kind of mess will probably prevent some unnecessary funerals in the future. My husband and I were in a mall in the DC area in the early 90s. At that time, Mary Lou Retting was hyping Tyson chicken products near the mall food court. We took a look. Oh, hey, That's Mary Lou Retton and walked past. Out of a service door comes a man in a pretty crappy looking chicken costume being led by a girl in tie-dye and dreadlocks. Sensing epic misfortune about to unfold, I grab my husband and we follow them back to the food court. Sure enough, the chicken throws a water balloon or something filled with red liquid resembling, might have actually been, blood at Mary Lou Retton and her crew as they are frying up delicious Tyson chicken in front of a crowd of soccer moms and their kids. The girl shouts something about Tyson being serial murderers and in an instant the chicken is underneath a large security guard. As they are leading the chicken away, his girlfriend is shouting, "Don't hurt him. Stop choking the chicken." Out of all the things that never happened, this never happened the most. Watching fireworks from the side of Citadel Hill in Halifax in the late 70s, there was a pre-fireworks parachute jump. I forget what they were supposed to do on the way down. I distinctly remember watching as one of the little black dots just kept falling until he was hidden behind the trees. He was easily 2 miles away, so we didn't hear the thump, but it was clear what had happened. The fireworks went on as scheduled and the news that night confirmed that one of the parachutes had failed to open. Here's the kicker. The guy landed in a backyard in a pile of sods that were waiting to be put on the front lawn. He got up and walked away, not in a straight line. I mean, he was obviously impacted. Sorry for the pun. Couldn't resist. By the event, but he was fine. True story. 2 white trash heroes, one guy, one girl, driving down the highway in a small hatchback with a gigantic, homemade, doghouse on the hood. The doghouse was so heavy that the front tires were rubbing the inside of the wheel well, and so big that both of them were leaning out the windows so they could see ahead of them. They were also both smoking like there was no tomorrow. If only I'd had a camera or a video camera. You guys would have loved it. Shanghai coiffure, a chubby Chinese woman versus tall Chinese woman, yelling at each other till they start to fight. It's funny when their husbands or whatever try to stop them because it's like 2 little monkeys trying to stop a fight between 2 tigers, lol. I live beside a coiffure in Shanghai. Know that feel, bro. About 10 years ago I was with some friends on the Barcelona subway. I must have been late because the station was empty except for a group of 3 girls on the other side, and a drunk guy on the same side as we are. Out of the blue this guy starts shouting to the girls. They kinda looked like prostitutes, and they are shouting back at him. So apparently he does not like what he's hearing, so jumps down to go across the tracks, only to be met by the now shoe in hand group of girls. Before he can go up and avoid the very dangerous position he was in, the tracks, he got pounded in the head several times. He finally fought his way up, but our train arrived and we couldn't see the ending. Pretty intense. A few years ago while visiting Washington DC, I saw the guy walk up to another man with a backpack. He pulled a bottle of Febreze out and sprayed it. The other man took a deep sniff and handed him a fat roll of cash and received a few more bottles of Febreze. Pretty sure I witnessed some crazy drug deal. I'm from DC area. We just like fresh air. A lot. I one time saw a dude overdose on H-crack-C in a public restroom. Something with a needle. Then see another guy walk in and start hitting him, telling him to get up, of which then a cop came and told the guy to get the frick out, and when he didn't, arrested him. Turns out the dude took half the needles and was trying to keep it for himself. I was just standing there outside the bathrooms waiting for some friends when all this came down. When my friends arrived it was all over and gone and I was just confused as heck. Posted this a little while ago but it got buried pretty good. I was shopping for shoes with my mom in JCPenney's when I was about 14. I was trying a pair on when some random kid walks up to me and starts beating me with Elmo slippers. Then he walks away like nothing happens. The imagery of that is too funny for words. Kid runs out from nowhere, screaming with a stupid look on his face and starts beating you with Elmo. Then he walks away with a smile on his face asking his mom when they're gonna go. During Halloween one year I decided to hit up Mill Ave in Tempe, a strip of shops, bars and clubs right next to ASU. There was this church group there reenacting the crucifixion of Jesus, and generally calling out for people to repent and condemning the pagan holiday of Hallows Eve. This group was really into this. They had props with fake blood, Roman soldiers, a huge cross with a guy dressed as Jesus hanging from it, the works. What was so funny was this. There was this guy dressed as the devil standing in front of them with a clipboard. On the clipboard was contracts for your soul. He was buying them for $5. He had a line of people selling him their souls. The church group was in complete shock. I mean, they looked on the verge of tears every time someone signed the contract. They were begging and pleading with people to not do it. I stood and watched this for about an hour. It was absolutely priceless. That dude dressed as the devil was the greatest troll I have ever witnessed. Dude, I was wheezing from laughing so hard after reading that story, and I have great lungs. Craziest thing I ever saw. In NYC there was a bum, just sitting on the edge of a fountain, eating his skimpy bum sandwich. Then out of nowhere a dude in a suit straight up dive tackles this bum into the fountain. Like the dude in the suit was completely horizontal through the air. Then two other guys in suits jump into the fountain and help the other suit guy kick the crap out of him. They all ran off and someone called the cops. Also that day, a guy dressed like a Goomba from the live action Mario movie fighting a crack W. This crazy thing happened to me when I was in Japan. I was at an internet cafe, and as I was going to my seat, being the nosy guy that I am, I was peeking into the other people's stalls to see what they were browsing. Anyways, the stall right beside me, I just barely glanced at, and I didn't see the screen. But I noticed some motion. As I sat down in my own stall, my curiosity began to grow. So, I decided to go casually get a magazine from the stand and take a second look. As I was walking back with my magazine, I looked into the booth beside me and saw a 20-ish-year-old girl watching lesbian pee, with her legs open spread eagle masturbating as furiously as humanly possible. Classic Japan moment. In Jacksonville for New Year's, a random woman comes up to us at our house party, Outlandish, and asks if we've seen the Smoking Beaver show. We say no and she says we can watch her inhale from a pipe with her bev and then exhale it out. For $20 she dropped trough right there and performed the trick. Still scarred. I worked at a movie theater on a not so nice part of town. After work, I was in my car on the phone with my girlfriend. The bus stop was just across the street and I was facing it. About 10 people were waiting for the bus. Suddenly, this guy in a Camaro comes rolling up and throws a bunch of $1 bills. Couldn't have been more than 20. Out his window at the people. It was absolute pandemonium for a solid 5 minutes. When it was all over, there was blood all over the ground and one woman was seriously injured. These people acted like complete animals over what couldn't have been more than $20. I saw two young girls walking 4 sheep in Misa, a city, no farms around. Where they managed to find 4 fully grown all white fluffy sheep in a fricking city is beyond me. I will tell people this and 90% of the time no one believes me. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video.